I mean, if he's smart, he will find a gay, handicapped, black woman who's an immigrant. That's what, because that way he could just say and she could be the devil. She could say, I hate America. I want to destroy America. And that way they'll only be able to say, well, why do you hate gay, immigrant, black, handicapped women?
If the president nominated Justice Stevens today, presume we could sort of wave a wand over him, make him 30 years younger and say, we want you back, would you recommend the Republican senators vote for him?
No, Justice Stevens is the kind of judicial activist that we particularly would not like to see on the court. The American people are fed up with President Obama's liberal political agenda he's been pushing, and his last effort is going to be to appoint someone who's going to rubber stamp that agenda on the court. We don't want liberal activist judges who are going to view the Constitution as something to just ignore or defy or get around.
Look, we heard that same language from Senator Hatch, who decried liberal judicial activism. I would argue to you, I've practiced a little bit of law, I would argue to you that the most activist decision in the history of the United States Supreme Court was Bush v. Gore, where the Supreme Court, by a vote of 5-4, a margin of 1, ripped away from a state the capacity to control its own elections and gave the election to President Bush. Isn't that the most activist decision ever rendered? And can you name for me one decision that Justice Stevens has rendered that you think is fundamentally wrong?
Oh, dozens. Just recently, he's signed on to eliminating the death penalty for violent child rapists. He has done ahistorical expansions of the habeas power to extend it to enemy combatants that are not even held in this country. There's all sorts of things.
And do you remember who joined him in that decision? Members of the very conservative court who also said the executive branch should be held to the rule of law. That was not an activist decision. That was a very conservative decision based upon the very words of the United States Constitution. Come back to Bush v. Gore. How can you look at that and not say that was the most activist decision ever rendered by Supreme Court, deciding a presidential election, ripping away from a state power to determine how elections are run?
Activism doesn't mean overturning rules. Overturning a law that is unconstitutional is the job of the Supreme Court. Judicial activism is when someone comes to a decision with a predisposed conclusion based on their politics, not their judge. Justice Breyer
I don't mean to
said,
interrupt, but time being short. First of all, I'm glad you accept Marbury v. Madison as part of the rule of the law in this nation. But what law was deemed unconstitutional in Bush v. Gore?
Just a quick finish. Justice Breyer said if it was the other way around, it would have been an 8-9
law was deemed
decision.
Unconstitutional?
In Bush v. Gore, we had a state that was selectively
No, just the opposite. All right, Carrie, you're fundamentally wrong as a matter of law. That's all right. We'll have this debate on the floor of the Senate, and hopefully we will get one brave Republican to vote for the rule of law. The word activism is used rampantly, wildly, without any meaning by the Republican Party when it comes to judges. The judicial nominees of the Republican Party are the most activist and lacking in legal understanding of any in the history of this nation. Anyway, that conversation will continue some other day.